I need this for
Real
my,
life.
even if you record it with your phone.
It's recording, bro.
Oh, okay, okay, cool. I can edit it.
All right, I think we're live, right, Ken? No volume. Can't hear you.
I've kind of pre-introduced you, but you'll have to introduce yourself all over again.
Okay, there you go. Couldn't hear you before, but good evening, everyone. My name is Raj Sabharwal. I am one of the owners of Glass Revolution Imports, and we are fortunate to be the importers, exclusive U.S. importers of Amrut single malts and other Amrut products. We launched Amrut into the U.S. market in late 2009, early 2010, and that was, I did not know anything about Amrut. A lot of people didn't back then. I mean, Amrut launched into the market with their single malts in 2004, and so whenever I went to India, and my cousins would give my brother and I whiskey. It wasn't Amrut. It wasn't anything like that. There was nothing like single malt whiskey in India that was available, because most of the whiskey that is sold in India as whiskey is actually made from a neutral, either molasses or grain spirit with some either imported whiskey added to it or some grain or malt whiskey that has been made by the distillery. There are actually more distilleries in India than there are in Scotland. Every state has at least one, if not multiple, except for the states that are dry, and there are a few dry states. So what does India have to do with whiskey? Probably wondering. Well, blame it on the Brits. During the British reign, the British Raj, the whiskey was what was consumed, and it soon became recognized by the Indian elite as something that they should have. So for gatherings, for functions, for parties and stuff, whiskey was served, and obviously it was Scotch, to a large extent Johnny Walker Black. There's a saying in India that there's more Johnny Walker Black sold in India than is made in the whole world, because there's a lot of counterfeit Johnny Walker Black that gets sold. So the whole concept of whiskey after the Brits left in 1947, several distilleries started operating. There was a distillery prior to that was set up in the 1800s up in northern India in the Himalayas, that was started by Dyer, who was a Brit who originally started a brewery and then added the distillery to it. And that distillery still exists today. It was moved a little further south, as known as Mohan Meekum Distillery. And they continue to make whiskey and some other stuff. So Amrut was set up in 1948. Family owned, still continues to be family owned and family run. And in the late 70s, early 80s, they started making single malt whiskey. Neil, who was the founder's son, had a real passion for single malts. He traveled abroad, spent a lot of time there, and said, well, we're going to make this. We can't sell it in the domestic market because there's not an appreciation for single malt. But the reason they were making it was to use in their higher end whiskeys. They have a brand called MacQ or Macuntosh, and it was still made from neutral molasses spirit, but they would add some malted barley whiskey to it to make it a more richer tasting whiskey. But lo and behold, in the late 80s, the Pernod came into the Indian market and decided that the way they were going to attack the market was by putting less malt and more grain alcohol into the neutral based spirit to make a cheaper product, and flooded the market with it. And so Amrut was left with all of these barrels of single malt, and they said, well, we can't add it to the whiskey because we can't compete at that price level. And they invited some distillers from Scotland to come over and try it and watch the operation and stuff. And the feedback they all got was, this is amazing, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So in 2004, they took the bold leap of launching Amrut Indian Single Malt into the market. And guess where they went? Where was the first place?
The UK?
Yep, Scotland specifically, and in Glasgow. And they launched it there. Ashok, who is now the head distiller, was responsible for building the market and the sales. And the first year, they sold 100 cases, so 600 bottles in all of the UK, which was quite below expectations. This is the first whiskey they launched. This was the packaging for it, Amrut Single Malt, and I'll show you. This is still the original bottle. It hasn't been opened, but green bottle. 40% ABV. It was chill filtered, color added to it, but this is what they first launched. And the feedback that they got was, well, the whiskey's good, but if you really want to stand out, you got to amp it up and don't chill filter it, don't add color to it, make it a richer distillate, which is what they did. So while I'm talking, why don't you open, if you haven't already, pour your first whiskey, which is, it's still in the yellow tin. It's the Amrut Classic Single Malt. This is made from 100% Indian barley, which grows in the north of India, in Punjab and Rajasthan. Punjab is considered the breadbasket of India. So all of the grains grow up there. Are produced there. The barley that's used for brewing and distilling in India is actually a unique varietal 6-row barley rather than 2-row, which is traditionally used in Scotland and the rest of the world. And it's a strain of barley that was specifically created by the Agricultural Commission to use for brewing and distilling. Okay. And the reason is because there's a lot of people in India, and they didn't want to face the criticism that they were taking food away from the populace and using that to make alcohol. There's a lot there back then. There was a lot of frowning on alcohol consumption. Today it's different. There's 600 million liters of alcohol that are sold every year in India and growing. There's you go, okay, 1.4 billion people, but if you discount the younger, the elderly, the people who don't drink for religious reasons, whatever else, you're left with about maybe 600 million. So they're drinking, on a per capita basis, they're drinking a lot of spirit. Okay, and whiskey continues to grow. It's still a very popular spirit. Okay. So this is non-chill filtered, no color added to it. It is, as I said, 100% Indian grown barley, 6-row barley that goes through a very long fermentation. They do about a 6 to 7 day fermentation, and then a very slow distillation process. It is aged in a combination of mostly ex-bourbon barrels, a little bit of New American oak. 5% of the spirit in here has been matured in sherry casks, and there is a slight bit of peated malt added to it. And that has changed from what the original recipe was when 5 years ago when Ashok took over, or 4 years ago when he took over distilling, he tweaked the recipe. He wanted to get a little more character and robustness to it, so he created what you're tasting today. It used to be Fusion used to be the number one seller in the U.S. market anyway. It's still the number one worldwide seller, but in the U.S. we're seeing more appreciation for what you're drinking now. It may be the price point's a little lower, but it's a little more robust. It doesn't have that high peat level, or the high peat level, but the more peat that the Fusion has.
Interesting. So is that what's giving it
Raj-
that kind of burnt
Sorry, go
sugar
ahead, Aaron.
quality? Oh no, I was
Oh
just
yeah.
wondering
Okay. So the barley, the Indian barley, the 6-year-old barley, has lower carbohydrates, more nitrogen in it, but it also has a higher sugar content. So you get that richer sweetness, barley sugar that comes out of that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you could taste it on my tongue.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a it's a nice long finish, a lot of going on there. What I said this last night that I hate to tell people what they're tasting, because what you're tasting might be different than what I'm tasting, and everybody tastes different things, and depending on what you're exposed to, what foods you've had, what you've grown up with, that's going to influence what you are tasting. So I'm happy for people to comment about what they're tasting on this one.
Sachin, are you tasting?
I taste white vinegar, peat.
You're getting the peat up front. That's interesting. It's just a small.
Yeah, it's
small
interesting. I get the peat kind of toward the middle back end of it.
Yeah.
But Raj, I really that greater sweetness on the front end really echoed with me when I first tried it.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell it's a single malt, but it's definitely got, I compare it with what I'm really into. We were talking before, like a Dunville's or W.D. O'Connell single malt, and it's definitely a sweeter profile than either of those on the front side.
Right. Okay. Anybody else?
I get like burnt sugar, a little bit of honey. Like it didn't register for me as peat, but just like slightly burnt sugar, and
Burnt sugar.
then a little bit of anise.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely fennel or anise in there. That's one of the basics. You'll find that in every Amrut. It's going to have that character in there.
Is that I guess house characteristic?
The house characteristics, the fennel, citrus notes, pear. Pear is there, a little bit of orange character, and then certainly the sugar varietal a little bit. You might pick up a little bit of ginger in there too, and a little bit of spices. And we joke because it's an Indian whiskey, so it has to have spices.
I do get a little bit of apple pie and cinnamon in there.
Yeah. I get a little like creamy banana and clove.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Somebody last night mentioned banana, and banana tends to come because of the long fermentation period. You naturally get a secondary fermentation or a malolactic fermentation, which typically gives you some banana, some tropical fruit characteristics. So that's where you're getting that from.
Yeah, I'm picking up on like an apple, and maybe like a toffee caramel flavor on there.
Yep. I think that. So the toffee caramel, very similar to what a few of you were talking about, brown sugar, burnt sugar. You're going to get that same characteristic there. Yeah, sorry, Ken.
If any one of you have a 70 to 80% dark chocolate handy there, try it, and you'll amplify everything that you're tasting now.
Well,
I'm
save that
definitely gonna have to
chocolate
do
for
that
the
later.
next whiskey, because the cast strength single malt, will really get amplified by the chocolate. So the cast strength that you're going to have next, the blue tin, is the bigger, older, bolder sibling of what you just had. So it is 61.8%, 123.6. It's exactly the same whiskey you just had, but the cast strength version.
Oh,
That's very interesting.
Okay.
Because I had just a little bit left, and I put like 2 or 3 drops in there, and it almost turned it into like a cereal, like a cinnamon cereal flavor. It's very interesting.
You do pick up more of that cereal notes, definitely.
Yeah, after I added a few drops to it. Very nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's fine the way it is, but I think a little bit of water, obviously, at that higher proof, is going to go up. But the interesting thing is even the cask strength, the higher proof whiskeys that Amrut makes, they're very well balanced and are very approachable and easy to drink. These two whiskeys are 5 years old, which might surprise some of you. But let's look at Amrut and where it's based and the climate there. So Amrut is in Bengluru, which is in the south central part of India. It's 3,000 feet above sea level. And so that really affects the climate. In winter, you get about 70, 75 degrees. In the summer, it'll be 120 to 125. Wow. The winter, the humidity is around 40 to 45%. And in the summer, it's about 75%. So it's fairly dry all year, but you do get these constant swings. And even in the course of a 24-hour period, you'll get temperature like, around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, really dropping off before it starts to pick up again. So the barrels really go through a lot of expansion and contraction over that time period. The angel share at Amrut is 10 to 15% a year. So it's averaging 12% a year. So if you think about it, in 5 years, 50% of your barrel's gone. But because it's drier, they're losing more water. The alcohol strength goes up. So Ashok likes to say that Amrut is the missing link between Scotland and Kentucky, meaning they're making whiskey like they make in Scotland, but it's maturing would make it in Kentucky. Because Kentucky is drier, you do get whiskeys that, as they age, the alcohol strength goes up from the entry level.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can't, you can't, the oldest whiskey that Amrut's ever made is the Greedy Angel 12-year-old, which was
wow. Look at the color on that.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? And this came from. There were there's only 240 bottles that came out of this. I'm holding bottle number 230.
What size cask?
So they were 250-liter casks, so 500 liters in total. After 12 years, they had 93 liters left.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
And it had gone up to 70, 71.8 or 72 ABV. They bottled this at I think this was bottled at 60%, if I'm not mistaken.
What proof does it go into the barrel at? Out of curiosity.
So it goes. That's a good question, Aaron. It goes into the barrel at 62.8.
Okay.
And that's significant because the rules in India are such that you cannot bottle anything at the strength higher than has entered the barrel at. So that's why their peated cask strength is bottled at 62.8. So it's not true cask strength, but it is the strength that they're filled at.
That it goes into. Interesting.
It goes into, yeah, and that's just the Indian
such
rules
an
and
interesting
regulations.
rule.
They can't sell that high proof in India. The strongest they're able to, in a lot of states in India, 42.8, which is equivalent to the British 75 proof, is the maximum. In some places, like in Karnataka, where Bengluru is, they can sell it at 50%, which is, the maximum, which is the fusion, which you're going to try later. That's bottled the same here as it is in the home state, but other states in India, you would get a watered down version. Yeah.
So did they actually sell different products in different states within India?
So
I mean,
they in their home state of Karnataka, they make everything. I mean, vodka, gin, brandy, different kinds of whiskeys. They even sell whiskey in Tetra Paks. Because everyone needs a little Tetra Pak of whiskey with their lunch. But it's very common to do that. And their rum, the Old Port rum, is the 7th largest selling rum in the world. In the neighboring state in Kerala, they sell 1 million cases a year of it.
It's an excellent rum.
It is.
Yeah.
Really?
And
But that was
Brian,
the first
talk,
product they ever made.
I hear people cribbing about 3-tier system here. Imagine 27-tier system in India.
Well, you know that, and we're not much different from the U.S. because we have every state in the U.S. has its own regulations.
That's fair.
In some states, there are multiple regulations. You know, like Maryland, we have to deal with Montgomery County, which is government controlled, and the rest of Maryland, which is open, and you have different regulations. So there are a lot of issues here. At least we don't face the duty and excise taxes that they do in India. You know, so it's a little better here. Right? But it's still
Spirits is still seen as luxury in India. That's the problem. Spirit is still a luxury, so it's taxed as if it was a Gucci bag or Louis Vuitton or something.
Yeah, 100.
Oh,
so
really?
imported whiskey is 150% excise duty that comes in.
Wow.
150. Wow.
Yeah, and so they're right now the UK government and the Indian government are negotiating because the UK government wants the tariffs reduced at least to half. But India is saying, well, if we do that, we want to be able to sell our domestic whiskeys in the UK and call them whiskey. And obviously, the UK government wants nothing to do with that. So that's sort of the stalemate right now position.
Just to give you an idea, the Jack Daniel number 7, 750 mil sells for about equivalent of 80 Indian dollars. 80 US dollars.
Yeah.
Wow.
People
So
buy
that's
it.
like 2x what we'd pay here, maybe even more.
80?
A little bit more. Yeah.
80.
Really. But people buy it.
2.5x.
The current the middle class today has such an incredible amount of disposable income, and they think nothing of paying $60, $70, $80 for a bottle of whiskey, or even more. So what do we think of the cask strength single malt?
The cask strength is for me, like, it's like so flavorful. I'm not really getting the burnt sugar I was getting before, but it's like more on like the honeycomb and mocha and vanilla cream kind of. And
Yeah,
it's, like,
it's probably
very
the higher ABV is muting some of those other flavors. I mean, a little bit of water will probably bring out that honeycomb, the sugar characteristic.
That bitterness aspect seemed to really hold off until kind of late in the finish, at least for me.
On the cask strength.
On the cask strength, yeah.
Yeah, you're getting at the front of your tongue?
No, I was more on the side, like
On the
really
side.
like on the deep sides. Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of that is oak tannins that are coming in because, this, even though it's a mature whiskey, I mean, it's still 5 years old. So you're still going to get some of the tannins that are going to be there unless you give it longer wood exposure.
But I think I agree with Aaron's. Like on the nose, I get incredible depth to it, like a lot of roundness to it. It's not as sharp. Like I would expect it to be sharper, but to me, it's just more well-rounded than the I don't know, what do you call it? Than the non-cask strength.
Yeah, it's so
the
enjoyable.
I agree.
Yeah. So there are 5 Amruts that are in the core lineup. You're going to taste all 5 of those tonight. But so far, Amrut's released about 42 different expressions.
Wow.
Unfortunately, not all made it to the U.S. because when we first launched Amrut here, we were required to send full bottles, 750 ml bottles, to the TTB lab for testing. I don't know why they needed a full bottle, but then they would come back to us and say, okay, well, you can call it this. And remember the first time I sent everything in, they said to us we had to call it a straight malt whiskey. I'm like, what the hell's a straight malt whiskey? And I said the definition of straight malt whiskey in the classifications applies only to U.S. made whiskeys. It doesn't apply to world made whiskeys. So they finally said, okay, you can call it a malt whiskey, and yes, you can add the word single in front of it. So that was a big triumph. We faced that not only with Amrut, but we were the first ones to bring in whiskey from Australia, from England, a few other countries, and we had the same battles with all of those. But luckily, no longer do we have to do that. So makes it fun. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to whiskey number 3?
Aaron, wait till this one.
Okay, so this is Triparva. This is the second release of Amrut's triple distilled single malt. So it is the same whiskey that you just had, but it is triple distilled. So same regimen, 100% malted Indian barley, long fermentation, slow distillation, and then it is matured for 5 to 6 years in mostly ex-bourbon barrels. There is no peated barley added into this, or any sherry barley added in, or sherry matured whiskey added into it. Bottled at 100 proof or 50%. The Triparva is the only Asian-made triple distilled whiskey. So nobody else in Asia is doing this. Amrut was the first one, and they you're lucky to try this. They are not going to make this anymore because Ashok says that it takes longer to make it, and you actually get a lower yield because when you go through the
extra distillation.
Yeah, you're stripping more out of it. So enjoy this while you can.
This is wild.
Yeah, we got
so good.
1,200 bottles in.
That is
US out of this release.
That's like a tropical island.
Yeah.
Bursting with like pineapple,
melons.
Oh wow, that's really unique.
Yeah, it's not usually when you think of a triple distilled whiskey, you're either thinking Ireland or you're thinking lowlands in Scotland, like Auchentoshan and stuff. And you traditionally expect to get heather, floral notes to it, but this has so much more going on.
This is like fruit salad.
It's like fruits. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Tropical
it's like
fruit salad.
The juice in the bottom of the bowl from fruit salad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so funny. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
That's right.
I'm going and grabbing a couple bottles tomorrow. I was going to do it today, but I was just running out of time.
It's incredible. It's in the nose, you do get a little bit of like that floral and honey, but in the mouth it is like a explosion of everything, like pineapple, passion fruit, peaches, so much.
And candied ginger. You can feel the candied ginger.
Yeah, papaya, candied ginger, guava. Those are all those tropical fruits are there.
Yeah, it's so funny though because I don't get a ton on the nose, but then it's just like fruit bomb.
Yeah. Anthony, what were you saying?
Really interesting.
I was just saying you guys hit it all on the nose because I'm getting the exact same thing, but I'm getting that really like fruit floral, like a orchard smell on the nose. Which is really great.
So like ripe sort of peaches or pears.
Yeah, exactly. Walking through the orchard, when they're flowering.
Yeah, like
there are some floral. There's some floral notes.
Yeah, I'm getting like an apricot pear.
Yeah. Sorry, James, what were you saying?
I'm getting like an apricot pear right on my tongue, and it's so smooth. That's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Yeah, this is pretty special.
I like the finish in this. It feels like the ginger you get with sushi. It has the finish of the
Pickled ginger.
Pickled ginger,
But it's pickle. I mean, sushi is like sweet pickle. It's not a bitter pickle, right? And I mean, I can just eat all of that myself rather than
I do that all the time.
It's good.
And there's only how many bottles available?
In the U.S., there are 1,200.
And there's no way in hell I'm going to find this in Utah.
You're right. You're right.
Oh, dang it.
But there are other. Yeah, we just started selling in Utah. We don't have Amrut there yet, but I'm working on getting it in.
Very nice.
Hey, Anthony, you just need to get a bunch of mid-winners and then find somebody that's really desperate for that and trade it with them. That's what
There
you
you
need to do.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Anthony,
Yes.
no need to worry, man. I'm here.
Yes,
All right.
please. We'll work on this offline.
All right. Yeah, there are.
that's really
it just
unique.
came
That's
in,
very,
so
very
it hasn't made it to all the states yet, but it has just come in. James, you're in Alabama,
Isn't
right?
James is in Indiana.
Indiana. Sorry, I thought he was in Alabama. Okay. Yeah, Aaron, what were you saying?
Oh, is it at Binny's in Chicago?
It is, or it should be if it's not already.
Yeah, it is at some of the Binnies. Naperville has one.
Okay. I'll have to keep my eye out then. Or ask my guy in Evanston.
Wow, this. I love this flavor. Once again, kind of like our last tasting we had. This is almost like that breakfast style, you know. Wake up and drink some whiskey for breakfast.
Well, it's funny because
this is a brunch whiskey, right? Sunday brunch.
Yeah,
I
sure.
like that. Yeah.
Ashok likes to call the first whiskey you had. He likes to call that the breakfast whiskey. But I think Triparva certainly has that. You know, just pour it over your cereal and or your porridge. It'd be great, like a little bit in porridge or oatmeal or something. It'd be fantastic.
Well, that first one, I don't. Maybe it was Jake that said with a little bit of water in it. I mean, it tastes like porridge or oatmeal with just a little bit. I put like a half a teaspoon.
Cereal. Yeah, the cereal notes are definitely there.
Yeah, I have a dropper right here, and yeah, when I added a couple drops of water, it definitely gave it that cereal flavor on that very first one.
Yeah. Cool. So it sounds like everyone liked the Triparva.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's excellent.
Good pairing with pancake and smoked bacon with a really nice maple. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. All right.
Now you're talking.
We're all coming to your house for breakfast tomorrow, kid.
Yeah. Erin, Oakbrook has it, and Lincoln Park has a few bottles left.
Okay.
Yeah, Naperville is out of stock.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Naperville.
No, because I ordered online, so Naperville is out of stock. So you have to get it from the other two stores now.
All right.
Dan already cleaned them out.
And only 15 left. Only 15 left in Chicago.
Oh wow!
And how much is this running? Just curious.
160.
All right.
Which is good. Some other places is like 185, so 160 is not bad. Yeah. All right. Should we start moving slowly into the peated world? So next we're going to do fusion. Anyone here? Has anyone had fusion before? No. Okay.
Nope. Just one.
No.
Just one
Fusion.
Actually, I think other than me and Aaron, nobody's had Amrut before, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, this is my first go.
I think
I've had a few different
Fusion.
ones.
Yeah.
Like,
Fusion
the Fusion I tried, I think it was Fusion X.
Whiskey. Yeah, Fusion X is
So this
different.
is
I'll
my-
talk about that in a minute. But
Yeah, this is my first time trying Fusion.
is their flagship whiskey. It was launched in 2009. And that year, Malt Maniacs called it the best daily dram. Whiskey Advocate called it World Whiskey of the Year. It's gone on to win multiple awards. So Fusion is anywhere from 75 to 80% of the single malt cask strength that you had, and 20%, 15 to 20% of their peated single malt, which we're going to have the last one. But the two whiskeys are made separately, and then they are married together for about 6 months back in oak barrels before it's bottled. Okay, so you're going to get a little more peat than you had on the first one, but this is, if you want to compare it to like a Scottish malt, it's like maybe a Talisker or Jura or a Highland Park kind of in style. But it's bottled at 100 proof. Sometimes it's easier, like, you know, it's interesting if you grab a bottle of Amrut even on the minis, you'll notice that on the back label, it has the batch number and the bottling date. And every batch is going to be slightly different. So they do everything by hand. It's not computerized, it's not mechanical. So you're always going to have slight variations from batch to batch.
Right off the bat on the nose, I get a really smoky flavor, almost like the barbecue smoky.
Mm-hmm.
Like right out of a smoker.
I would agree with you. So it's more. A lot of people last night were saying it was like barbecued pork belly.
Yeah.
That sweet smoke, cherry smoke kind of notes on there. So it's not. It's certainly not. Your typical Isla peated whiskeys, right? Because this is the barley here. Amrut gets its peated barley made at Baird Maltings in Inverness, and so they're using mainland peat. It's peated to Amrut specifications. It's peated to around 20 to 24 ppm before it's shipped to the distillery. And the peated whiskey, when you taste it next, you'll see how the peat is a lot lighter in style, but certainly you're getting a hint of this in the fusion.
Yeah, this is probably the closest barbecue flavored whiskey I've ever had. Literally, like you hit it right, like a pork butt. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right
to
up
me,
that alley.
to me, it's like the crusty bark on beef brisket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We did last year. We did a dinner we did a couple of dinners in Atlanta, Amrut dinners, and one of the restaurants, the chef had taken Amrut fusion and marinated the pork tenderloins in there, and then when he took the pork tenderloins out, he took the remaining fusion and he soaked the wood chips in it, which he then used to smoke the pork tenderloin. It was just incredible.
Oh man.
Sounds delicious.
I would do a reduction with this and then baste it over my spare ribs.
Perfect.
Oh, I bet that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, I think
this
you're
is
right
good.
on
Yeah, I mean-
with that. Yeah. Would just this
Full
is definitely-
disclosure.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
No, I was just saying this is a great cooking flavor, to infuse into pretty much anything. It has that food blending quality to it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian, what
I mean,
do you
I am not a peat guy at all. I mean, as there's more peat that flows into the Irish whiskey world, I'm struggling with that a bit. But this one, like, it doesn't smack you in the face with peat in the way that a lot of stuff does. I like the more like hickory-ish grilled meat kind of what kind of note to it versus like the phenolic peat. It's very different.
Yes. Yeah, and you'll notice when we move to the next one and the one after that, which are 100% peated, there's the peat's going to be higher, obviously, but it's still doesn't smack you in the face. It's still a very approachable peat level. I mean, and don't forget that if you love peated whiskeys, the younger whiskeys are going to have more phenolic character than older ones, because as whiskey, even when you get the peated barley, when it's peated to a certain level, by the time it gets to the distillery, some of the phenols have dropped off. You lose some more during distillation. You further lose some more during the maturation process. So when you look at something like Octomore and they say, it's 248 ppm, there's no way it's that in the bottle. It just couldn't be, because you wouldn't be able to drink it. So they may have had their barley peated to that level. But if you compare a 30-year-old Kalila to an 8-year-old Kalila, they're going to be vastly different. Or Lagavulin, the 8-year-old that came in with a couple of years ago, compared that to their classic 16-year-old, the 8 has a lot more phenolic characters than the 16 does.
I've seen that in long grow.
old-
The younger long grow red is heavy, and then
Yep.
the ones I have back there, 18 and 21, are like soup.
Right.
The blunted too. Yeah.
So very good.
What's
Okay,
the
I think
average
a
aging?
little water brings out the peat for me a little
Yes.
bit more. Like I'd put about 2 or 3 mils in,
Yeah.
and that really kind of pumps the hickoryness
Yeah.
flavor versus true peat, so to speak.
If you leave your glass overnight and let the residue build up in there, you'll really pick up that great characters from there. It's a really interesting way to analyze whiskey by doing it that way. So when Amrut introduced this, it really put them on the map. It made people stand up and pay attention to whiskey from India. And as I said, 2004 was when they first launched it, and it was only launched as an export only product because Neil felt that there would not be appreciation for it in the domestic Indian market. And as Amrut started getting notoriety in the rest of the world, people in India would call the distillery and say, "Where can I buy this?" And they were told, "Well, you have to leave the country to get it. You can't buy it here." So they realized that, yes, there is demand for it. And I think it was in 2011 or 12 that they introduced it in India in their home state. And there was demand elsewhere. And now they're in most states in India. But what Amrut did was set a standard, a gold standard for Indian single malts. And now you have 4 or 5 other Indian single malt brands that are being exported. There are currently 24 distilleries in India that make single malt, with another 6 being built. A lot of those new builds are by Diageo. Ian McLeod is building one distillery. Pernod. So a lot of the foreign producers are coming into India to build these distilleries and increase the supply of malted whiskey because they realize that the demand is going to continue to grow. This year, Amrut itself outsold Glenlivet and Glenfiddich combined in India.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And when they first launched, they had no expectation that that's where it would go. It's just incredible. I mean, the demand in India domestically is 5 times more than they can supply. So they're ramping up. The original distillery, they were able to produce 300,000 liters of pure alcohol, pure malt-based alcohol every year, which clearly wasn't enough. So about 5 years ago, they built a second distillery on the same site next to the first one. So now they have a capacity of 1 million liters per year. But that's it. They have no room to expand. They can't go anywhere else. The warehouses are full. The warehouses are concrete block with metal roofs and then 6-story high metal racks where the barrels get placed. It's interesting. There's no forklifts or anything else in there. If you want to grab a sample of when we're walking in the warehouse and they say, I want a sample of that one up there, one of the workers will just climb up the racking and
Oh boy,
pull out a sample.
Oh wow.
It's incredible.
Aaron, that's how you guys do it, right? There's no OSHA problems or anything like that there. Is there?
Well, it's
Yeah,
funny
exactly.
Raj,
How
are the
go ahead.
How are the barrels stacked? Are they upright or on this belly?
Lying down.
Lying down. Okay.
Lying down.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're horizontal. Yeah. But I can remember 5 or 6 years ago, Mark Gillespie visited a distillery, and he was having a tour and he was videoing. And Amrut has its. They've got guys who will do barrel repairs and they'll rechar the barrels after they've been used a few times. And the guy who was recharring the barrel had no safety boots on, no gloves, open barrel, open flame, and he was just like doing this. And Mark is like, okay, well, OSHA, if OSHA was here, this would be a major issue, but that's just the way it is, you know? Yeah. And they continue to do that. So, all right, let's try the peated, single malt. It's the gray tin, gray container. So as I said earlier, there being no peat in India, they get the barley peated at Baird Maltings in Inverness, and then it's shipped over. Now, Amrut at the old distillery used to have its own floor maltings, and they did some, but that was in the early days when they could do small amounts of it to satisfy how much barley they needed. They can't do that anymore. But one of the releases that we had was a single barrel that I brought in just for the U.S. and it was Indian barley that had been peated, for malted at Amrut, and now they found a malting place in Delhi that is bringing in peat and malting Indian barley, which the malted Indian barley is totally different than the malted peated Scottish barley.
Raj, right off
the 2-row versus the 6-row.
Yeah, right off the gate. Once again, just because I'm a barbecue guy, that's the smell that you'll smell from a barbecue guy that's waking up early in the morning, opening his smoker before he gets it going. That smoky creosote smell. You know what I mean? Like opening up your smoker before anything's turned on.
Yep.
I'm getting that smell out of it, and I love that smell because it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, I agree with you. It certainly is. Or if you have a wood, if your house is heated by a wood fireplace, and you in the morning you go down there, you've got just the ashes and the residue. You open it up, and you're going to get that kind of flavor.
Yeah, it's like almost like that creosote, but not a bad one. It's that just like very familiar, related with fire smell.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a grilled fruits kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I mean, it's not that phenolic forward kind of thing where it's kind of sharp. It's like a soft peat. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, I agree. I mean, it is. So when you get mainland peat versus Isla peat, you're going to get more earthy, deciduous, heather, floral notes in it, and certainly this. You're not going to get the iodine, the seaweed, the saltiness that you get from Isla peat. And a lot of people are scared off.
I think I talked over Aaron, by the way.
Oh, sorry, Aaron.
Oh no, it's fine.
Sorry about that, Aaron.
Oh, I feel like the grain still kind of comes through in the aroma, and like the heat makes me think of like a burnt log, I guess. Like you were saying, like more like that wood kind of smell, and then the barley comes through, and it makes me think a little bit of like peanuts. I don't know if that's a weird thing to say, and eucalyptus, and
you get a little bit of that mint and eucalyptus.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I like that peanut idea a little bit too. I can see that.
After on the very back end, I'm almost getting like that mouthfeel of like butter. Like just that classic butter flavor.
So you get, so it's that oiliness.
The oiliness.
Amrut's got a lot of texture, right? It's got a lot of, stick to it. I think that because again, that's coming from the long fermentation, the slow distillation, the quality of casks that they use, and the real, the rapid expansion contraction of the barrels that really makes the whiskey mature a lot quicker. So it is really rich. It's really, it's if you ever have like older whiskeys, or I'll be biased because I import Blackadder, but if you ever had any of the Blackadder raw cask whiskeys, that have gotten very little filtration, you're going to have that richness, the oil, the fats, all of that stuff in there because if you're not chill filtering it, you're not stripping it out.
Yeah, there's definitely that oiliness to it, like that. There's a definite density to it.
Yes, yeah, there's good weight, definitely to it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was picking up on. I just added a couple drops in here on my last little swoosh and see what that does.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone here is a wine drinker, when you have a wine that's been unfiltered, unfined, it's definitely going to have more heft and weight and richness than one that has been filtered and fined. And
I just added a couple.
So I did about 4 drops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get like a grilled chicken, like a grilled hickory chicken, almost barbecue-ish chicken kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it actually amplified the oily flavor with the water.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
Especially on the front side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, let's go to the final one, which is the peated cask strength. That'll be in the green container. This is bottled at 125.6 proof, or 62.8, which is the highest that Amrut can bottle anything at. Even though, after 8-10 years in the barrel, you're going to be in the 70s, but unfortunately, they can't bottle at that. So the only time I get to try those is when I'm at the distillery and we're pulling barrel samples. But this is the highest proof, highest strength that Amrut release you can ever get. And again, this is exactly the same as what you just had, but the higher proof. This definitely could do with a little bit of water because I think it's a little closed on the nose. Because the higher alcohol.
Yeah, I don't get a lot. I don't get a lot on the nose.
Yeah, it's that high because you're getting that alcohol is masking everything.
Yeah, it's like almost ether flavored smell.
Breathe deep, you're going to get that alcohol burn a little bit on your nose, but when you taste it, you'll really see how that's going.
It's almost drying, like
it does. Yeah. It is drying in the mouth.
Just pulls all the moisture out of your mouth.
Yeah, but then when that dissipates, that alcohol dissipates, you're going to get
there it goes.
All those characters building up. You're going to get layers of flavor opening up.
Yeah, it gets sweet on the exhale.
Wow, that's
on the very back end when you're exhaling, it gets sweet.
Yeah,
I think it's really cooling, like very mentholy on the back end.
It is. Yeah,
that's good.
I agree.
I like that.
Yeah, it has the fresh mint. I always.
Yeah. Well, and there's some of that like gingery bitterness again too.
Definitely.
Like at the end where it kind of sits, down in here.
Yeah.
Wow,
I gotta admit, out of the core, the 5 core and lineup, the peated cask strength's my favorite. But that's just me. I mean, I like peated whiskeys, but
mine too.
I like the cask strength of both of them.
Yeah, both. Yeah. I agree. Both cask strengths are really good. Sorry, Brian.
No, I was going to say I get a lot of like the wintergreen lifesaver. Like
that mintiness is definitely there. It is very cooling. It's almost like like menthol. If you breathe in with your mouth open and it goes across the tongue, you're going to get that wintergreen, that menthol sort of flavors going in there.
Like that eucalyptus that Aaron was talking about on the other one, but it's like 10x on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Honestly, this is something I would really like to try, like on a snowy day outside where it's cool, the air is cool coming through. I think it would amplify. I think it'd be really amazing. You'd get a lot more different notes.
Yeah, take a sip of it and just breathe in with your mouth open.
The
cold air.
Cold air, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and your body's getting warmed and your mouth's a little cool. It's just great experience. Yep.
Anthony, a little flask out of Park City or something.
Exactly. Yeah. No. But I'm just like literally, you go skiing for the day and you're sitting out there, your little condo, on the little patio, just hanging out, sunset, pull on this, and it'll just you're
Anthony,
warm
I'm going
already.
to be there in Anthony. I'm going to be there in January for the Sundance.
Well, first of all, you're gonna bring me some
Oh,
of this this here with you, and then we're gonna talk.
Oh yeah, sure.
There you go.
I'll let you. I'll give you a call before I head that way.
Yes, for sure.
All right. I know we're under the time
that's
crunch. Is there any questions, any thoughts on what we've had?
Raj, do you know how many of these are in Ohio, given our goofy system here?
Actually, Brian, we pulled out of Ohio about 3 years ago,
I don't
and
blame you.
I haven't gotten back in, but we're thinking of coming back into the market. The problem is that the broker we were using, the agent we were using, decided they didn't want to sell liquor anymore. So we've been trying to get another broker to represent us, but the system has changed, which allows us to bring it in ourselves. We just need to get people on the ground trying to push it. So Ohio was a good market for us, and we definitely want to get back there. I've got a lot of friends down in Columbus that I do an annual whiskey tasting for them, and I think I'm coming at the end of January to do the next one. But
Okay, good.
Obviously, the rest of the state sells a lot.
I just added some a couple droplets to the water to that last one, and it opened up almost like a coffee flavor. I like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brian, you'd have to
tell
go
me
to
if I'm wrong. Add some water to that back into
Yeah, the water
tastes
really
like
does
coffee.
it.
Almost tastes like
Where
a coffee
in
flavor.
Ohio are you, Brian?
I'm in Cincy, so I can. The good news is I can get across the river to Kentucky.
Yeah, just go across
easily.
the river. I mean, Party City will have it, and a few other retailers carry
I
them
can
all.
see that in my office as I look across the river. So that's
There you go. I know exactly where you are. Okay.
Kind of
Anthony, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what your favorite or
little bit
most
of water.
enjoyable whiskey was tonight.
Yeah, Brian,
that
it's the
Triparva
taste.
for me.
I feel like I get coffee flavor on the back end.
Yeah. From the core range, I think just the regular cask strength is my favorite. And then the peated cask strength is my second favorite.
Great.
Sachin, what about you? Which is your favorite of the 6 you tasted?
So, I mean, I have packed pretty much each one of this, and I think I would be more seasonal. Like I like this gray one a little bit more because it's softer, but it still has flavor. I mean, I can feel it. Like if I'm really in a challenging weather, like really cold, something outside, and I need to feel like I'm having brandy or cognac, I think this one I would go for it. But I need something softer, something just want to sit home, do nothing. Maybe Saturday, I would rather go with fusion.
Yeah, that pairs well with Indian food as well. Fusion pairs really good with it.
And the other thing usually I try is salty fish.
Yeah.
I make salty fish. And so I have, when I go for any type of spirit, I make sure that I have salty fish. So I have little bit salty test on my, so I just want to make sure, I could enjoy whichever spirit I have. So it needs to be a little bit stronger.
Okay.
But I think fusion is also good. And I have tried Amrut earlier. So I think I like fusion and I would go with this gray one.
The peated.
Peated Indian. And I think the second one, the stronger one, I think is a little bit too strong for me.
Okay.
Jake, what about you?
I would have to say the Triparva. I mean, it's just so unique. One of the most unique pours I've ever had. It reminded me of barrel seagrass without the spice.
Oh yeah, barrel.
Super creamy and inviting and welcoming and just tropical.
Interesting.
Brian, you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll stay on brand with the triple distilled whiskey, but yeah, the Triparva I thought was just really a pleasant surprise. So I was looking forward to that one the most, but knew nothing about it. That'll be my first, but I'd probably put the Fusion second. You know, I've been doing a lot of Killoan recently, and that that reminds me a lot of, you know, Aaron talked about, I think when we were trying to like the burnt sugar note, you get a lot of that from a lot of the stuff that Brendan does from Killoan. So that was a close, I'll call it a close second. So
okay,
that's where I am.
Interesting.
And Anthony?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you guys. Stay on par with the Triparva. I like this because it's something that I think everybody can enjoy. You know, you can get a group of friends together and just hang out and enjoy that. I think that's very good for a group setting. But personally, I really like the peated. It just reminds me of so much of my daily life that I'm a part of, and it just goes right in character with what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. You know, last night, I think the Triparva was the favorite from the group. And then, you know, a lot of people, again, the peated, the fusion, the cast strength were seconds. So very similar profiles coming in. So, yeah. So
you need to, Raj, you need to talk them into not discontinuing the Triparva. Tell them you got people that want it.
Well, yeah, that'll be. I mean, we got the bulk of it from this release in the U.S. We are the largest export market for Amrut, so we do get the bulk of any releases they do. But unfortunately, it's when the master distiller says I'm not going to do it, but I've made him change his mind before, so I will make him do that. I'm seeing him in February, so I will make him do that. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you all.
Robert is late to the party.
Well, we're just finishing up, so.
I apologize, guys. My daughter was sick, so.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
I would have rather been here. I promise.
Well,
No,
at least this is. I think you recorded this, Kyan, right? So people can.
Yeah,
watch
it. And it's on YouTube as well. Yeah.
Okay. So you can try the whiskeys, but
yeah.
I just want to thank everyone taking time out of your Friday night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you everybody for making it.
Thanks for all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
It was great.
Thank you.
Great.
Hasta luego.
This has been a pleasure.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Brian, we'll work on getting back into Ohio. So.
Yeah.
And Utah too, Anthony. That's next on the list. So
That'd be great.
All right.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, Raj. Yeah.
That was very good. Thanks, Raj.